Let me tell you about the rebellion they sold us. Break the rules, reject structure, do what you want, when you want, how do you want. Live for experiences, not possessions. Don't commit to anything that doesn't feel completely authentic in this exact moment. Sounds like freedom, sounds radical, sounds like exactly what a young person with a functioning brain should want. Except, who benefits when you never build anything? Who profits when your attention span is 2 seconds and your loyalty to any project or person lasts exactly as long as it feels good? The system, the exact system you thought you were rebelling against. An undisciplined population is the easiest population to control, not through force, but through distraction, through the endless provision of novelty, comfort, and the feeling of freedom without any of its actual substance. The truly radical act, the one the system generally cannot monetize, cannot redirect, cannot absorb into its content feed, is a man who builds something slowly, deliberately, and without needing anyone's validation to continue. Discipline is rebellion, the most dangerous kind. Zygmunt Bauman described the world as we live in as liquid modernity. The argument is this: solid modernity had heavy institutions, factories, long careers, marriages that lasted, communities with roots. You were locked in, but the lock also meant continuity, depth, and the slow accumulation of something real. Liquid modernity, notwithstanding, dissolved all of that. Everything flows now. Everything is temporary. Nothing is supposed to last because permanence is reframed as rigidity and rigidity is framed as the enemy of freedom. But here is what Bauman also understood: liquid modernity is not freedom, it's but a different kind of prison, one with no walls, which makes it much harder to escape because you can't even identify where the confinement is. The system needs you liquid. It needs you to keep consuming because you never built anything that satisfies. It needs you to keep switching because you never commit to anything long enough to master it. It needs your attention fragmented because a focused man is dangerous. He produces things the system didn't commission. The man who wakes up at the same time every day, who trains when he doesn't feel like it, who works on his own thing for 2 hours before touching his phone, keeps promises to himself with the same seriousness he keeps promises to others. That man is not optimizing, he is not grinding. He is quietly, systematically opting out of the machinery designed to keep him dependent and reactive. That is subversion. That is the underground railroad of the modern era. In alchemy, after the Nigredo, the destruction of the old self, comes the Albedo, the washing phase, the slow, unglamorous, undramatic process of purification. No explosions, no sudden transformations, just a daily discipline of removing what is false and reinforcing what is true. The Albedo is boring to watch. It doesn't make good content. It doesn't generate viral moments. It is therefore, by design, invisible to everyone except the person going through it. Which is exactly why it works. The algorithm cannot reach you in the albedo. The culture cannot distract you because the albedo is not about performing growth. It is about actually doing it in private without an audience, without applause, without the dopamine hit of being seen improving. Albedo takes too long and it doesn't look impressive because someone else seemed to be moving faster and the comparison is unbearable if your mind is not in the right place to walk this path. And sometimes they go back to Nigredo because they couldn't do the washing. Amazing, right? You cannot reach Citrinitas from a self that wasn't properly rebuilt. The discipline of the Albedo is the most rebellious thing I know. It says, I'm building something real, and I don't care how long it takes, and I don't need anyone to witness it to make it valid. That's not common. That's not normal. That is rare sense. Here is what I want to be careful. Because there is a version of discipline that is not rebellion, it's suppression. The man who controls every impulse, eliminates every vice, optimizes every moment, but does it from fear rather than from strength, does it to avoid feeling the chaos underneath rather than because he's genuinely building towards something. That man is not free. He's just trapped in a more respectable cage. Jung was very clear about this. You cannot integrate the shadow by controlling it. You integrate it by acknowledging it, understanding it, and redirecting its energy rather than simply suppressing it. Strength without brutality, intellect without arrogance, success without vanity, rebellion with direction, and in silence. The discipline I'm talking about is not the discipline of someone who's afraid of what they'll become without the rules. It is the discipline of someone who knows exactly what they're building and why, and who chooses the structure because the structure serves the vision, not because they need to feel safe. And that distinction between disciplined fear and disciplined direction is the difference between the man who survives and the man who eventually gets to choose his own terms. So, what does it look like in practice on a Tuesday? It looks like the thing you committed to, even though no one is watching and it won't generate a result for 6 months. It looks like refusing the cheap dopamine, the scroll, the notification, the distraction, not because you're above it, but because you've decided what your attention is worth. It looks like keeping a promise to yourself with the same seriousness you'd keep a promise to someone you respect. It looks like being genuinely, completely uninteresting to the culture for a period of time while you build something that will matter later. The world will not cheer you while you're doing this. The world cheers the result. The world never cheers the albedo. But the albedo is where the result is made. And if you can stay in, unglamorous, invisible, disciplined, and direction driven, you will eventually produce something that the liquid world cannot touch. Because they didn't build it and they don't understand how. Welcome to the Silent Rebellion. If you like this video, there is a link in the description for some art so you can support this channel. Thank you and keep walking, friend. El Psy Konguru.